Okay. So. I'm gonna start with endocrine. Okay. So I'm just gonna start at the top of their list. Note that you do need to know the hormones and what comes from where and what is excreted from where and for like everything.
Awesome.
What you want to start with is recognizing what gland is what, and then from there attaching the cell types, and then from there attaching what cell type secretes what and what that does. Okay. Because that's what gets a lot of people on the endocrine side of the exam is like not recognizing the organ fast enough or mixing it up with something. And so just make sure that you're kind of methodical about getting the histology down in your head and then adding everything to that. Okay. All right, so pituitary. Anterior or posterior?
Posterior.
Posterior.
Posterior. And then this is?
Anterior.
Anterior. Okay. What is the other name for the posterior pituitary?
Neurohypophysis.
Neurohypophysis. And what is this? Adenohypophysis. Good. Okay. All right, so what cells are back here that look like glia?
Huh?
These are pituocytes. And what do they secrete?
PTH?
Huh?
PTH?
No, they don't. Oh wait, no. It's just ADH and OT and oxytocin.
Well,
Did they not secrete anything?
The pituocytes are just, they look like nerve cells and they kind of insulate and protect.
So those are pituocytes.
Yes. But then what does the posterior pituitary secrete?
OT and ADH.
Good. Oxytocin.
OT and ADH. Okay.
And then anterior pituitary has a bunch of different stuff. Okay. And so what are these ones that don't have very much stain to them called?
Chromophobes.
Chromophobes. And then anything that does have stain is a chromophil. And then the chromophils either are purple like this, which are basophils, or kind of reddish, which are the acidophils. Good. Okay. And then what do the acidophils secrete? Prolactin and growth hormone. And what do the basophils secrete?
Like thyroid stimulating hormone, ACTH.
And then
The
FSH and LH. Good. And you could have cheated if you wanted to.
That's why I didn't answer.
And then chromophobes
They don't do anything.
don't secrete hormones. They don't know what they do yet. Okay. Some people have postulated that they're stem cells. Other people have postulated that maybe they are support cells. So like, you know, like how you have a nerve cell in the testes that like helps the other cells grow. So they've like said maybe that's the case. Okay. All right. So that is anterior and posterior pituitary. So if you see like a two-colored something where it's like a chunk and a chunk, that's like a big flag that you're looking at the pituitary gland. Okay. Thyroid. What is the major feature of the thyroid gland?
No, I'm saying, should I split it or make it one last video?
Follicular cells that make what? Follicles, right? So, and then the follicular cells make colloid, which is the storage form, thyroglobulin, which is going to be excreted as what? T3 or T4. How do you make thyroglobulin? Iodine. Good. Okay. And so these are the follicular cells, okay? What cells are the parafollicular cells?
C cells. Oh.
C cells are not the same as parafollicular cells. That is a typo.
I thought they were, yeah.
No, they are
Oh,
not.
that's a typo.
That
Okay.
I was like, this makes no sense, but I memorized it because I was like, okay.
Nope, that is something that we corrected when we went through there. That is something that's actually incorrect on you guys' lab sheets. So the parafollicular cells, these are follicular that touch the colloid,
And then
The ones that are in
are
between
the following, yeah.
or the parafollicular cells, okay?
Mhm.
And so the parafollicular cells make calcitonin.
So the C cells are just not a real thing?
C cells are not a real thing in this gland.
Okay.
That's why, okay, that's why I was getting it all
Okay,
confused.
there we go.
Yeah.
That's it, okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so that might help you out a little bit.
So it's
Sure helps
follicular and what were the other ones?
Parafollicular means beside the
Yeah,
follicle,
that's-
so
I
it's
get
gonna
that,
be
yeah.
like in between.
I know the follicular cells are
And
the
then
ones
the
in the
follicular
circle,
cells
yeah.
make the thyroglobulin, which is the T3, T4.
And then one thing I was kind of confused about, the middle's colloid, I know that, but then
Yeah.
you said that colloid is then, turns into T3, T4?
After it's, so the iodine comes in, gets made into thyroglobulin, which is the storage form, which is the colloid.
So colloid and iodine is what you said, right?
Iodine comes in,
Uh-huh.
gets made into the colloid, which is the thyroglobulin. Then it gets exported, and when it gets exported, it's activated and turned into T3 and T4 in the bloodstream.
So, in short, that colloid does turn into T3, T4, but not like directly.
Not directly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So how do we know that thyroid is thyroid? Follicles. Okay. Okay, parathyroid. And remember, parathyroid can be surrounded by thyroid, so don't be thrown off by that. Okay? If you see something that looks like almost like a lymphatic organ or a lymphatic organ with fat in it, like this is what the parathyroid looks like. Okay? And then these cells can sometimes be called C cells
Yeah.
because of the chief cell moniker, right?
Pepsinogen.
But the easiest way to remember them is calling them parathyroid cells because that's pretty much what they are. Okay. And then these ones make what?
Parathyroid.
Parathyroid
Makes sense.
okay, or PTH. Okay, which one causes calcium storage? PTH or calcitonin?
Calcitonin.
Okay, good. Which one causes excretion into blood? PTH or calcitonin?
PTH.
PTH, good. Okay. Okay, you guys are doing well. Okay. So this is parathyroid gland. When it is with thyroid, let's see. This is kind of more of like how it looks. See if it's in an area where it's surrounded by thyroid, but it's this, that's what parathyroid is.
So thyroid's on the left side, parathyroid's that big purple.
So this is all thyroid, and this is the parathyroid sitting in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, they're not very big, they're the size of a pea. So you can section a whole parathyroid gland and have it on a slide with the thyroid.
Should we be familiar with like what diseases like can make these look different? Like Hashimoto's disease or like Graves' disease?
You should know what they are, but the histology associated with them, no.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Because that would be like more of like for a path class. Okay. All right, so next one, adrenal. This is your salt, sugar, sex. Okay, and your zonas. Okay. So you've got your zona, Marilosa, and then fasciculata, and then reticularis, and then what's this bit? Medulla, okay. And so salt because of the mineral corticoids, glucocorticoids, sugar, and then sex.
Could you say that one more time? So it's salt, sugar, sex.
Salt, sugar, sex.
And salt comes from what?
Salt is the mineral corticoids. Okay. Sugar is the glucocorticoids. Okay. And then sex is the androgens.
Okay.
Okay. And then the medulla does what? Yeah, epinephrine and norepinephrine. Good. So flight or fright response. And so the easiest way to kind of orient yourself on this gland, again, is looking at the way I always did it was the zona fasciculata, because that one I always remembered sugar because the cells are lighter, like they've been sprinkled with sugar. And then I knew that that was supposed to be on the more like cortical side of things. And then I could use the shape of the cells to figure out orientation. And so just if you see something where there's a lot of cells that are organized in different shapes, that's what's gonna give you that orientation. Okay. And you can see that there's not very many slides for each of these, and so you guys can study off of these and it's all good. Okay. All right, pancreas. Kind of double hit because this is a digestive gland and an endocrine gland, so yeah. Okay. How do you know pancreas? Because of the islets, or the islets of Langerhans. Okay. Sometimes I will pick a picture that's a little bit more obvious even than this, because I like to have the islets emphasized, and in that case, usually this is red, or redder, or purpler, and then this is white. Or lighter looking, okay? But the islets have what in them?
Alpha and beta cells and delta cells.
Okay, alpha, beta, and delta cells, which are also generally called pancreatic endocrine cells, which secrete into what?
To the interstitial.
No, what, not what do they secrete?
Into the blood.
Where is it going?
The interstitial.
Blood. Okay. It goes into interstitial fluid, but then into the bloodstream, right? Because it's the endocrine gland part, right? And so alpha secretes glucagon, which causes what?
Blood sugar levels to go up.
Blood sugar to go up or down? Increase, good. Beta cells secrete insulin, which does what? Decrease, but then stores it in the tissue, okay? And then glucagon does what? Or, delta is somatostatin, which does what? It inhibits both of them, so it's like the Thanksgiving turkey one. So the other two ramp up and it damps them down. Okay, good. And then all of these cells out here are the what?
Acinar cells.
Pancreatic acinar, or you could also say exocrine cells. Okay, where do they secrete their product? Into the pancreatic duct, which goes into the common bile duct, which goes into the duodenum. Okay, so what does this secrete?
Pancreatic enzymes.
Pancreatic enzymes, or zymogens, right? Which are gonna be there to help digest your food. Okay, so this is the digestion part. This is the part that allows you to feed yourself. Can you live without a pancreas?
No.
No, you cannot.
What are the white spaces in between called?
These are actually
Not like,
ducts or adipose tissue, depending on where they are.
I mean like cause that's like a duct, yeah, like the circle. I'm talking about like the webs of white in between it.
Oh, like here?
Yeah.
Because remember, anytime you've got a gland, an endocrine gland or exocrine gland, you get connective tissue septa
Oh.
that section the gland into pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of its structure. That's all that is. And remember, if you have a duct in the pancreas, it's gonna be lined by simple cuboidal to columnar epithelia. Okay. Now, GI. Okay. And so with this, you should be able to, again, organ layers, you know, stuff like that, and you should be able to figure it out by what you're looking at as far as epithelia. Okay. That digestive chart that I gave you is the summary of all of that. Okay. And so that has the 6 different layers, and then what happens at each layer, and what cells are involved, and all of that goodness, okay? Okay, so this is the esophagus. What is it lined with? What type of epithelia?
Stratified squamous.
Non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelia.
Wait, did you say non?
Non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelia. Okay. What's the layer underneath that, which is areolar CT? Lamina propria, and then you have the muscularis mucosa.
Oh, this was.
What is the special thing about the muscularis mucosa and externa in the esophagus? What is it in the upper third?
Skeletal muscle.
Skeletal, and then your lower third is the
Smooth.
smooth, and then in between you've got transition. Okay. What is it when you are closer to your mouth? Is it proximal or distal?
Proximal.
Proximal, distal is towards your anus, right? So the other way you could say that is not upper or lower, but proximal versus distal. All right, so what are these?
Muscularis mucosa.
Esophageal glands that produce what? Mucus, right? What are these big folds?
Didn't we just say that was the stratified squamous?
No, that's the epithelia. What is this big fold called? It's big structure.
Oh,
What goes this way in the esophagus to help form a chute for food? The longitudinal folds.
what are they called? Pile?
That help direct the food. Okay.
Fantastic.
Your epithelia and your lamina propria and your muscularis mucosa are all together called the
Mucosa.
mucosa of your esophagus. Underneath that, you've got the
Submucosa.
submucosa, and then what does, and then this layer out here is the
Muscularis externa.
muscularis externa, and then outside of the externa,
Adventitia.
adventitia for most of it, but then the distal,
Serosa.
yeah, good, is serosa. There you go.
So this one had submucosa. Did the other one also have the submucosa?
Remember, that's in the gut tube. You always have those layers. You always have epithelia, lamina propria, and muscularis mucosa that make the mucosa. You always have submucosa. You always have muscularis externa.
In all of them.
Yeah, inner circular, outer longitudinal, and then you're gonna have either an adventitia or a serosa. Okay.
The adventitia is typically just in the esophagus though, correct? Anything?
But no, like the large intestine, like the ascending and descending colon,
Mhm.
are adventitia. So anything that moves gets a serosa. Anything that does not move gets an adventitia. So like duodenum, adventitia.
Okay,
Ileum and jejunum, serosa. Stuff like that.
gotcha.
Okay. Okay, so for the stomach, you could use really any of these, but this one is the prettiest. Okay. Remember, stomach is gonna have a semi-flat top, but you can see the difference in the cells when you go through the layers. Okay, and so what are these cells that are on top called?
Surface epithelium?
Surface. What do they produce?
Mucus.
Mucus. So these are surface mucus cells which form what type of epithelia?
Transitional? No.
No, transitional is only in the urinary tract.
Oh.
They are
Pseudo-
simple columnar.
What? I
So
guess.
beyond the esophagus, everything else in the digestive tract is gonna have some sort of simple columnar epithelia,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Oh, I remember
So here,
reading
the
that.
simple columnar epithelia is made of surface mucus cells, okay? Or if they go down into the neck of a gastric gland, they are called mucus neck cells. Okay? And so remember, you've got gastric pits. So these would be mucus neck cells, surface mucus cells. They look the same. Okay. And then this would be the gastric gland. That's the reason it looks like two different layers. It's not really. Okay. What are these big pink cells called? Parietal cells. What do they make?
HCl.
HCl and
Intrinsic factor.
intrinsic factor. Good. What are these other kind of speckled cells called?
Chief cells?
Chief cells.
Chief cells. And what do the chief cells make?
Pepsinogen?
Pepsinogen and pepsin. Good. Zymogens. Okay. And so that does what? What is we know what the HCl does, but what does the intrinsic factor do?
Activates vitamin B12.
It activates vitamin B12 so that you can absorb it where?
And
Duodenum.
it's a small intestine.
In the small intestine. Yeah. Good. Okay. So this is your epithelia. And in between, getting squeezed out of the way so you can barely see it, is your lamina propria. You can see a little bit of it down here. And then you've got your muscularis mucosa, and then your submucosa, and then your big muscularis externa with the inner circular, outer longitudinal layer. And because we're in the stomach, we get an extra layer, so we've got an inner oblique, middle circular, outer longitudinal layer. Okay. All right, and then the stomach has what? Serosa or adventitia?
Serosa.
Serosa, good. Okay.
Is the only way to really tell it apart is how that serosa looked kind of like put together and adventitia is kind of like everywhere?
Okay, we got three
I just
sections of the
where-
intestine. If you didn't know to look at it, which one would this be?
It's the ileum.
It's the ileum because of Peyer's patches. Good, the big lymphatic nodules. Okay. How do you know that you're in small intestine period? You've got these things, which are called
Villi.
villi. Good, or the crypts too. In between, right? What's this one over here? Duodenum because of the
Brunner's glands.
Brunner's glands. Good, which secrete what?
Mucin.
Alkaline mucus. Okay, good. And then you've also got the villi, and then what's this one in the middle that's kind of boring? Jejunum, right? Because it's got nothing, because its whole job is absorption. Okay. And so going through the layers, I'll stay on the jejunum. Okay. You've got out here a layer of what type of epithelia?
Simple columnar?
Simple columnar epithelia with what?
Microvilli.
Microvilli and goblet cells. How do the goblet cells arrange themselves in your gut? Where are they most concentrated?
In the pit.
You have the most goblet cells proximal or distal?
Distal.
Distal. The more distal you go in the small and large intestine, the more numerous your goblet cells get. Okay. What are these cells called that make up this epithelial layer? These are simple columnar cells that are called what?
Enterocyte.
Enterocytes. Good. Then in the villi, you've got a core of areolar CT, which is called the what layer?
Lamina propria.
Lamina propria. Okay. And then the lamina propria also goes around these little invaginations called crypts. Okay. And then down here, we've got a little bit more of the lamina propria. A little bit more of the lamina propria. What is well, wait, hold on, I might have lost the muscularis a little bit. You can't see it really well on here, and it's a little bit blurry. But there is a little bit of smooth muscle that's about 2 cells thick. Okay, and that's the muscularis mucosa. And then you've got the dense irregular CT, that's the
Submucosa.
submucosa, and then you have the inner circular and outer longitudinal layer of the muscularis externa. Okay, and then this is ilia, so it's got what? Serosa or adventitia?
Adventitious.
Serosa. Ilium and or jejunum and ilium can move, so it's serosa, and you know it's serosa because it's only a single layer of squamous cells. Duodenum does not move, so that's the one that's got the adventitia. Yeah.
So you can see that's the longitudinal layer, and then there's the round layer under it, right?
So this is the inner circular layer, outer longitudinal layer.
Okay, yeah.
Does not have to do with cut, has everything to do with how it is in orientation to the lumen. So here you see circular layer, so this is gonna be the inner circular layer. Outer longitudinal because it's going along the length.
Oh, it doesn't matter that it's going one's like.
Yeah, it
actually-
doesn't,
Oh.
cut does not matter, what matters is how it's running as in orientation to the lumen. What are the cells that are at the bottom of the crypts that this is not showing very well? Let me see if I can come up with a better one here. These cells that have the lovely polka dotted apical sides, what are these called?
Oh.
These are Paneth cells.
Mm.
And so the Paneth cells secrete what? Lysozyme, because remember the stem cells are down there, so the lysozyme is protecting the stem cells from bacteria. Okay. What is this in here, this lighter, in between the inner circular and outer longitudinal layers of muscle, what is this lighter tissue?
It's the,
What type of tissue is this?
Adipose.
This is nervous tissue, which forms what? What plexus is between these two layers? You have the R-box or the myenteric plexus. That's part of the ENS. So remember you got submucosal and myenteric, and they both run the gut. Okay. Does Barry teach you guys about that stuff? Those things?
Barry teaches us about a lot of stuff.
Probably not.
I don't remember that.
Okay. That's one that I always teach about because it kind of like puts it with the nervous system, but I don't know if it's in his notes or not, so that's why I'm kind of like, okay. All right. So we did the small intestine. Okay, colon. Even though this is not on your labs, this is something that is totally fair game for your exam. Okay. Very flat top. Goblet cells in this one come up black, because that's just the way that the stain is on this one. And so, you know that if you've got flat top with lots and lots of crypts that have lots and lots of goblet cells, that you're looking at colon.
Oh, fuck.
Okay. Remember, this is the one that you can make the joke that it looks like really nice bathroom wallpaper, because it's all flowers.
Column.
Or sometimes you'll get it where the crypts are in longitudinal section if you're really lucky, like this. Okay. What is this type of epithelia called?
simple columnar.
Simple columnar with what?
Microvilli.
It still has microvilli and it has lots and lots of goblet cells. Okay, that was not a trick question. What are these made from? Like, what cells are these called? These are still
Parasites.
enterocytes because you're still in an intestine. Okay. And then you've got the epithelia, you've got the lamina propria, you've got the muscularis mucosa, and then the big submucosa, and then the big muscularis externa. And like we talked about, which parts of the colon are movable? So they have serosa.
Ascending and descending.
Ascending and descending do not move.
That's adventitious.
So they have adventitia, so that leaves the transverse and the sigmoid that do move. And then they have serosa. One of the things that they look for actually in a lot of colon polyps, because these cells are kind of very similar. They're a little bit different biochemically, but they're pretty much the same as the cells in your small intestine, right? And so if they're getting a little bit weird, they actually look for polyps that form villi. It's called an intervillous polyp. And so if they catch villi in your colon, that's a little bit of what do you call it? A hint that they need to be taking out the epithelia right there. Fun fact. All right. I think that's about it, except liver, right? We almost forgot about liver. So you guys do not need to know the function of gallbladder, you need to know the function of gallbladder, but not the histology of it. So what is the function of the gallbladder?
Just the bile, right?
Stores and releases bile.
Store and release bile, good.
Mm-hmm.
And so remember, you can do human liver or pig liver, okay? If you have an opening that has no connective tissue or very little around it, what are you probably looking at? A central vein. Okay. And then what are these ones that are surrounded by like a lot of connective tissue? These are the triads. Okay. So if you dot to dot from triad to triad to triad, around a central vein, this is a liver lobule. Good. Okay. Within a triad, if I'm looking at a triad, what is this piece of the triad called? Hepatic
Portal vein.
artery. Good, because let's see the muscle around it. Same with that one. Okay. And this one doesn't have a good portal vein. That's actually the portal vein right there. But then this is the
Bile duct.
bile duct. Good. Okay. What are these little white openings in between the red cells called? These are the sinusoids. If you've got something that looks like a macrophage or 2 or 3 hanging out in the sinusoids, what are these called?
Kupfer cells.
Kupfer cells. And then what are the big fat red cells? These are all
Parasites.
hepatocytes. Good. Okay. Let's see if we can find a better hepatic portal vein. This is one right over here. So here is a big hepatic portal vein. Okay. And here is a bit of bile duct with it. And you can see some of the hepatic artery with it. The hepatic portal vein, is that the blood that's coming in or going out?
Coming in.
Coming in, okay, because the blood that's going out is going where?
The hepatic vein.
The hepatic vein from the what in the lobule? What structure in the lobule connects to the hepatic vein? The central veins. Okay. So hepatic portal vein and hepatic arteries come in. That blood runs through the sinusoids, gets cleaned up by the hepatocytes and the Kupfer cells. and then goes out the drain, which is the central vein. Okay. And then the central vein goes out the hepatic veins to the inferior vena cava. Sound good?
Sounds
Say
good.
it one more time, could you?
So hepatic veins or central veins get collected up
Uh-huh.
and drained to the hepatic veins. The hepatic vein goes to the inferior vena cava, where it goes back to the heart.
Mhm.
So you need to say hepatic vein versus hepatic portal vein, because portal goes in, proper hepatic goes out. Does that make
Portal
sense?
goes in,
Portal goes in,
and then the vein goes out.
and then the hepatic, there's a hepatic portal vein
Uh-huh.
that goes in as part of the triad. And then there is the central vein that drains out through the hepatic veins to the inferior vena cava. Okay,
Okay.
Nice.
I kinda get that, I guess.
okay, any questions?
Did you get that?
Not yet.
Not as much.
That was a very quick review.
At least happy we got a review. Honestly, that's like all I really care about.
No, that was everything.
That was
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
I know what to look at and
So
review.
anything else that you?
Yeah. Do you have like any like?
So there will be models on this, so like know your digestive system drawing. There will be labels on the body model, like it's like over there, like behind you guys.
Purpose game is good.
So you might wanna take pictures of that. That model shows up on both exams, actually.
That girl?
That person, yeah, or this person, they're kind of the same model. And so know that type of stuff. About half the exam is slides.
Oh, shit.
And so, like I said, you're gonna need to know not just what organ it is, but what the cells are, what layers are there, what tissue is there, what it secretes, all that good stuff.
Did we go over if we're doing microscopes or no microscopes?
I think that everybody just wanted to do no
Yeah,
microscopes.
histology, yeah.
Perfect.
Because I think everybody in here looks at this more anyways.
It can throw you off sometimes when you look at the slides, like on a microscope, and sometimes some stuff doesn't appear as like as well as like on histology.
Yeah, and all the pictures that I've got, I feel pretty